Ever since the rise of Netflix, the grand majority of media is consumed through subscription services. Whether for movies, shows, music, audiobooks, hell, even games are trying to get you to subscribe to play. Obviously, there are benefits to this style of service, thus why they're so popular. Since you're paying a basic fee for the time on the service rather than for individual things, you probably tend to find a lot more new things than you would otherwise. And it's all available instantly with an internet connection. Because of this relatively cheap availability, online piracy went down. This benefits the companies for obvious reasons, but also the consumers, as they're spending less time browsing and downloading from shady sites. I wanted to put all that up front to show that I have nothing against the idea of subscription services. I even subscribe to a few. They are incredibly useful to find new things, especially when priced competitively. But I do not believe they should ever be the primary way we consume media, as it takes power away from the consumer and will inevitably lead to you losing something you love. I'll start by telling you a story. When I was a kid, the transition from CDs to MP3s was just starting. iPods and iTunes were the new kids on the block, and everyone was trying to copy them. I went from carrying around a Discman and a stack of jewel cases to just one small MP3 player that could fit my entire collection in my pocket. And it was my whole collection, as I was able to rip all those CDs I had and put them on the player. Then, once I got an iPod, I was able to start buying things through iTunes. It blew my mind that I could look up basically anything and pay around $1 for the specific song I wanted. No looking everywhere for a CD just to pay $10 for the whole thing when you only liked a song or two. And if I wanted, I could take the whole file from iTunes and use it on other devices, like any other MP3 file. Just like that, I was a lover of digital distribution. This essentially stayed the same until I found out about Apple Music years later. I was a broke college kid, not really buying anything except rice and canned chicken, when suddenly I found out I could play anything on iTunes if I paid Apple $5 a month. This blew my mind all over again, and I quickly racked up a massive library of songs, listening to things I probably never would have otherwise. I used Apple Music for about 2 years, soon paying $10 a month once Apple found out I was no longer in college. But then I hit a rough patch in life again where suddenly I had to think about every penny I was spending. Therefore, the 3 or 4 subscriptions I had racked up had to go. Suddenly I was losing access to everything. All of the music I had been listening to for years, all of the shows and movies I had fallen in love with, everything that I did not already own before subscribing and calling it a day. It was hard, but very sobering. All of a sudden I couldn't enjoy almost any of the art that I wanted to, because I couldn't spend any money. So instead, I had to enjoy the things I had. This made me rethink my relationship with these services and with the art that I love. Obviously, the services had done something for me. I had a much more broad music taste and had found so many albums that I still love to this day. But once I knew I loved an album, why didn't I buy it? I had no issue at the time with buying video games, which were not available as services at the time. And thank God I had, because I could still play them even when I wasn't ready to spend more money. So why had I not bought songs, movies, and shows that I cared a lot about? Was I just assuming I would always be able to pay for the service? Was I so spoiled by the wealth of cheap content that spending a whole month's subscription just for one album seemed pointless? Or even better, was I just not really thinking about it? I think it's some combination of these things, but a few months of service sobriety will surely make you think about it. I realized not only that I could survive with just the things that I had, but also that I cared enough about a lot of the things I lost that I should make sure I would always have them. I gathered up all the old CDs I had and ripped them all to MP3s. Once I got back on my feet monetarily, instead of resubscribing to all the services, I started actually buying things again once in a while. I was spending about the same amount I was before, but all the CDs and MP3s I bought I knew I would always have. And slowly but surely, my library grew. Today I have over 311 albums, which totals almost 9 days of music. And because of that, I go through long periods where I don't purchase any music, and if I wanted to, I could be entirely self-sufficient until the day I die, because I spent a few years building my own library. I had already acquired quite handsome game and book collections, so I stopped buying them. I went to a Goodwill and got my hands on a ton of cheap DVDs over time, something I need to continue doing. I wish there were more ways to buy movies digitally, but places like Prime and YouTube just letting me buy it to stream it online isn't good enough. I need the actual file, accessible to me offline and on whatever device I want, or else I don't own it. These services have proven too many times that they are willing to take away what you bought to encourage you to buy it again, or perpetually rent it, and they feel justified in doing so because you signed the terms of service. But as I said, I still think there's a place for streaming services. I piggyback off my girlfriend's Spotify subscription to find new music, and occasionally I watch something I don't own on a service. They are very helpful rental services, but that is all they are. Rentals and cable. If you care about something, buy it. Because if you can't afford it anymore someday, or if your internet is down, or if it gets taken off of some service it's always been on, or whatever reason you lose access to it, it will still feel just as shitty. You just can't beat actual ownership.